Welcome. We are visiting Vedic mathematics, science, and technology scriptures. The first scripture being taken up is Surya Upanishad. Surya Upanishad is the Upanishad of Ved. Of this domain as well, Surya Upanishad is of Atharva Angiras stream. So the Surya Upanishad is the Surya Atharva Angiras Upanishad. This scripture is in a prose form. There are 8 paragraphs in all, and these paragraphs are composed as sentences. There are 74 sentences in all. The first paragraph is a composition of 9 sentences. These 9 sentences of paragraph 1 of Surya Atharva Angiras Upanishad are preserving in a sequential format the phases and stages of organization, the knowledge of this Upanishad, and in fact of every Upanishad. Knowledge and organization of knowledge are 2 distinct features. However, the success of the Vedic systems is that they are simultaneously taking up both these flow streams. Knowledge as well as organization of knowledge run parallel to each other. The knowledge of Surya Atharva Angiras Upanishad and the organization of Surya Atharva Angiras Upanishad run parallel with each other. These 9 steps of organization, beginning with Rishi and sequentially as Chand, Devta, Bij, Shakti, Kilak, Vinayog, Shadang, and Sanstiti, are to be comprehended well. It is the thorough comprehension of the features of these organization steps one shall be acquiring proper insight of the knowledge domain as well. The knowledge domain of this scripture is running parallel with these organization steps. We have seen that the formulation Rishi, Chand, Devta, Bij, Shakti, Kilak, Vinayog, Chadang, and Sanstiti are having their respective transcendental code values. These transcendental code values are the index of the values they reach in terms of these formulations. Each formulation is having its internal composition. The internal composition of every formulation runs parallel with the sequential placement of the letters in the respective words. Formulation Rishi is a word formulation. This word formulation is availing 3 letters, Ri, Sha, and E. These triple letters composition makes TC value 12. The internal composition of this value is as 4, 6, and 2. These values 4, 6, and 2 take us to their corresponding geometric formats, come to be 4 space, 6 space, and 2 space. These 3 spaces, 4 space, 6, and 2 space, are integrated, these are coordinated, these are making a reach at the domain of this formulation. These three values, 4, 6, and 2, are parallel with the values of the dimensional frame of a 6 space. 4 space plays the role of dimension of 6 space, while 2 space plays the role of dimension of 6 space. Therefore, the formulation Rishi, as it is in this form, frame, and format, and of these values, is in fact a format of transcendence within the dimensional frames. This phenomenon of transcendence within dimensional frames is the basic phenomenon chase of the Vedic systems. Vedic systems are chasing the creation phenomenon as that these creations as domains are having their dimensional frames. These dimensional frames are potentialized to provide transcendence. The transcendence through the dimensional frames comes to be as that there is going to be a reach from domain to a dimension and step ahead from dimension to dimension of dimension. Therefore, it is this feature, it is this value which deserves to be comprehended as in terms of this we are having initiation of our comprehension of these organization steps. The first organization step in terms of formulation Rishi comes to be that the organization is going to be as per the transcendence path through the dimensional frames. We may start with 3 space and then the transcendence is to take place through the dimensional frame of 3 space. We may start with 4 space, then the transcendence is to take place through the dimensional frame of 4 space. Like that, if we start with n space, then the transcendence is to take place through the dimensional frame of n space itself. First organization step in terms of formulation Rishi that way comes to be a flow chase as per transcendence through the dimensional frame. The reach of this transcendence step is as is evident from the meaning of the formulation Rishi, Seer. Seer sees through, one glimpses through the domain as to its origin. So this organization step is a step which gives a reach up till the origin. So from a dimensional frame, the reach is up till the origin. The second organization step picks up the thread in continuity of the previous, that is the first organization step. This continuity initiation is to be at the origin. The first step is at the dimensional frame of a domain. The second step is initiation at the origin. Now, origin is the fourth fold. Therefore, the higher dimensional order of the origin than that of the domain will bring in a feature as that the origin being of a higher dimensional order, the same will have a split. It is this split feature which is the subject matter of chase of the second organization step. The first step is as per the flow transcendence through the dimensional frame for its reach up till the origin. The second step is a transcendence to proceed ahead from the origin. But origin being of a high dimensional order, same as such, puts a seal at the origin. This seal stands broken only with the split of the origin. And this split of the origin in the context of the domain results into a split for the domain itself. Therefore, the second organization step is the step of split of the domain into a pair of domains. We can formally express it as that the domain sphere, splits into a pair of hemispheres. Chand, which literally means filter. Therefore, the transcendence flow which had reached up till the origin through the transcendental domain now stands filtered. This filtering is as that the flow is to be now within hemispheres. There are a pair of hemispheres. It is the southern hemisphere which is being taken up for its fulfillment. The southern hemisphere is of placement value 19, parallel with the TC value of the formulation Chand. The next step, the third step, the organization is that the southern hemisphere gets fulfilled with the transcendence flow through the origin. The flow through the origin is parallel with the total geometric versions of the domain itself. Beginning with a cube means a three-space body being of seven versions. As such, the structural flow from the origin within the southern hemisphere is to be of seven streams. Southern hemisphere, along with these seven streams, make the organization format of third phase and stage. The third phase and stage of organization is of formulation Devata. Formulation Devata literally means the manifested domain. This domain, parallel with the TC value of Devata, comes to be of value 26. Value 26 accepts an organization 7 plus 19, and it is this feature of 7 plus 19 is equal to 26, parallel with the TC value of the domain, brings us face to face with the reach up till the third phase and stage of the organization. Let us have a pass. The first phase and stage is of transcendence through the dimensional frame for its reach up till the origin. Second organization format is of a split at the origin, a split for the domain, a split of the sphere into a pair of hemispheres, and of this pair of hemispheres, it is the southern hemisphere which is being taken up for the organization. The third phase and stage is that the southern hemisphere, along with the seven streams flow, makes the organization format as a Devata. Now, a step ahead. A step ahead is a beach, which literally means seed. Now, what has been the progress up till the third organization step is that the flow, the Jyoti flow, the content flow, which had initiated from the origin and had reached within the southern hemisphere, makes this hemisphere as a transcendental hemisphere, a sphere, a created sphere, a manifested sphere fulfilled with the transcendental values. Means this southern hemisphere as well gets its own origin. The fourth phase and stage of the organization is that the split of a sphere into hemispheres because of split at the origin now results into the feature of the domains of hemispheres as well getting embedded their own origins. The originally there was one origin. This origin splitted. The split of this origin is at this phase and stage is resulting into both of the hemispheres again having their own origins. The origin, as we have seen, is the fourth fold of the manifested creations of the hypercubes formates along the idol of Lord Brahma, the presiding deity of a fourth space. Therefore, the embedding of an origin within southern hemisphere or in fact within any of the hemispheres will make its fourth fold. This fourth fold will acquire one dimension higher than that of the domain. It is this feature which will create spatial order, and the spatial order of quadruple dimensions will create its dimensional frame of value 2 raised to power 4, that is 16, which is parallel with the TC value of the formulation B's. Let us have a pause here. Let us revisit the sequential reach beginning with the Rishi as a seer who transcends through the dimensional frame and glimpses the origin. The origin, being of a higher dimensional origin, splits. This split of a sphere into a pair of hemispheres is the reach of the second phase and stage. The formulation Chand as TC value 19 is parallel with the placement value of the southern hemisphere reach of the second phase and stage of the organization. Then there happens to be a flow through the origin and it makes a reach as Devata of TC values 26. Then the hemisphere gets embedded with its own origin and it is a seed. Seed is the embedding of hemisphere with an origin. Hemisphere embedded with the origin means it is having its own seed. We know that we had begun with a sphere. An origin was the seed of the sphere. Then it split into a pair of hemispheres, and now seed is being embedded in the process in hemisphere. One shall sit comfortably and permit the transcending mind to be parallel with this comprehension and insight of the Vedic system. Now, a step ahead. It is within four space, there is embedding of a transcendental origin, and the transcendental origin being of five space features is creating a transcendental cavity at the origin seat. We further know that A raised to power 5 is to 10 B raised to power 4 is the domain boundary ratio. Therefore, to keep the cavity bridged, to keep the mouth of the transcendental cavity with a creative cap, it requires a power. It is Shakti. And A raised to power 5 is to 10 B raised to power 4 takes us to the creative format, the creative cap of 10 components, and value 10 is parallel with the TC value of the formulation Shakti. Fifth phase and stage of the organization is to put a cap, creative cap for the transcendental cavity that is at the seat of the origin. The moment the transcendental cavity stands capped, then naturally the chase of the domain with a cavity but capped makes it that the four space domain itself is having three distinct components. That is the four space domain, then comes the cavity, five space, then again comes the trapper domain. Value is 13. It is this feature, it is this value, it is this comprehension, it is this insight, it is this reach, which is the reach of the sixth phase and stage of this organization format. Once the cavity, cavity with a cap stands nailed, stands fixed properly, then comes phase and stage of having unison with the transcendental domain, which is properly capped and which is properly nailed. It is called Vinyog. And once the transcendental domain properly capped stands nailed, that would mean that this transcendental cavity as well will be having its own origin. We started with the origin, then we had a split, we embedded the hemispheres with the origins, we had a cavity, and then nailed it, and again we are having an origin. The sixth space which plays the role of origin of a five space. Therefore, now the organization reaches up till the sixth space as origin of a five space. It is Shadang. It is the eighth phase and stage, and finally it is session of this self-referral origin, six space origin of five space as transcendental cavity within a creator's space, and the organization is. Let us sit comfortably. Let us be parallel with these organization format. There are 9 sequential steps. In terms of these 9 sequential steps, organization format comes to be that every manifested creation form of Tirloki as our physical solid hypercube three space bodies. We will glimpse the origin, then we will have a split at the origin, then we will embed each of the hemispheres with a origin, and ultimately we will reach at the origin for the transcendental cavity as well, being properly fixed, fully unified. Sadhakas fulfilled with intensity of urge, parallel with These organization format features of Vedic knowledge and Vedic scriptures shall sequentially chase these organization format features. Thank you very much.